Iran denied on Saturday U.S. accusations that Tehran supported attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria and condemned U.S. airstrikes on Iranian-backed militants there, state media reported. On Tuesday, the United States told the UN Security Council that it targeted Iran-backed militia in Syria and Iraq with airstrikes to deter the militants and Tehran from conducting or supporting further attacks on U.S. personnel or facilities. But Iran's UN envoy, Majid Tekht Ravanchi, said any claim to attribute to Iran any attack carried out against American personnel or facilities in Iraq is factually wrong and void of the minimum requirements of authenticity and reliability, according to the official news agency RNA. Under Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, the 15-member Security Council must immediately be informed of any action that states take in self-defense against armed attack. Washington told the United Nations that the airstrikes hit facilities used by militia blamed for an escalating series of drone and rocket attacks against U.S. forces in Iraq. But Ravanchi said the U.S. argument that such attacks were conducted to deter Iran and the so-called Iran-backed militia groups from conducting or supporting further attacks has no factual or legal ground, as it is found or mere fabrication, as well as arbitrary interpretation of Article 51. The attacks by the United States are conducted in flagrant violation of international law, Ravanchi said in a letter quoted by IRNA. So I do find it very interesting that when the United States claims that they were going after Iran-backed militia groups, they can never tell us what the names of these groups were or where they have evidence that this was the case. And, if things were actually the way they were supposed to be, when he claims that the U.S. violated international law, it would be this big shock because laws that are congruent to the whole world are supposed to be indisputably very important. Whether you think it's more important than laws just within the U.S., if you live here, they're still generally agreed to be something that is significant. And these other countries, especially the ones that have problems with the UN, tend to not really have a problem with violating those laws. But the US has shown that, and a lot of people get confused when you talk about it as being this, again, referring to the US government as being this antagonistic force. You attack a militia group under the premise of it being backed by a country you are antagonistic to with no proof to support your claim. You violate laws set about by the international community with the UN, and then somehow you get to say, as you're bombing 7 countries, we believe in freedom and democracy. Now, I believe Iran. I don't have any reason to doubt their recollection of things. It's so sad that the U.S. It's like you'll see us put out, again referring to the American military and government, 200, 300 statements condemning Iran, accusing Iran, before we put one out saying anything about Israel or Saudi Arabia. So I have no reason to doubt Iran, especially when the people accusing them are just as bad, if not worse, than the people they're talking about. So I hope tensions de-escalate. We already screwed with them when it came to the Soleimani assassination from last year, and I'm just not optimistic about the prospects of not having a eighth war under the U.S.'s belt.